Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 5 of the weekly playback. I didn't get a chance to play too many games in this past week, just a couple, so I'll just dive right into the games that I played. I'm going to start with the smallest box and get to the biggest box. So the first game that I am talking about is Project Dreamscape. The reason I was originally attracted to this game was because of the artwork. It just reminds me a bit of Rick and Morty. I don't know what you guys think about that. So anyway, this is a game that is 1 to 4 players, designed by Sarah and Will Reed, and artwork by Julie Okahara. Yeah, published by Undyne Studios, I guess is what it's called. So I played a 2-player game of this, and basically you are going to have a stack of dream cards and you are trying to create your own dreamscape, I guess. So there's going to be 5 cards laid out on the table, and you can purchase those cards. They have a cost from 1 to 5, and you will be purchasing them from a stack of, so your purchasing power is dependent on your stack of Z cards. So you have a tiny stack of Z cards. You don't want too many because they will end up subtracting points from your overall score at the end. So let's suppose you have a stack of 3 Z cards, and if it's your turn, you can use this thing as another coin or whatever card. So you would have 4 points to spend on buying cards from what's available in the row of cards. So when you purchase cards, you're going to add them to your REM stack, and it's gonna basically, they're just gonna be next to each other, basically like that. And you are trying to create chains of symbols that will be scored in the end. So if you had these 2 next to each other, you would get a certain amount of points, and the longer the chain, the more points, of course. And when you buy a card, which you must do on your turn, you must buy a card, then you can use one of the abilities on one of the sides of the cards. I thought the abilities were good. I do wish that there had been a stronger ability to rearrange cards in your own dreamscape. There was one card that allows you to kind of do that. It's called the floating free card, which says pull a dream card from your REM stack and play it on top. So you can move a card from your stack and play it on top, but I still feel like that's not as powerful an ability as I would have liked. I do wish that there had been a card that maybe would have allowed you to rearrange a couple of cards in your dream stack, in your REM stack. There were cards that do allow you to reserve a card that you want to buy. There are cards that allow you to rearrange the cards that are available to buy. But I'm not sure that was hugely helpful. It was an interesting game. I would like to play it at a higher player count and then see how I feel about it, because at 2 players, I'm not sure how I feel about it at 2 players. But the artwork was interesting. But yeah, again, I just kind of wish that there maybe had been a bit of a stronger ability. But yeah, really cool artwork. I just really, really like this artwork. So yeah, I do think I want to play this again. It's a game I will keep in my collection just because of the really unique artwork. I do think that this game is out of print. I think they may be doing another print run of it. I'm not 100% sure. But right now I do think it's out of print. In fact, I think I got the last copy that was available. So yeah, so that's Project Dreamscape. The next game I will talk about is currently on Kickstarter, actually. It's called Chili Mafia. So I really like this game. It's a set collection game. I was not sponsored to do an overview video of this, so my opinion, you can be rest assured that it's completely unbiased. I was sent a copy of this game, but I really did enjoy it. So this is a set collection game in which you are trying to create gangs of chili peppers. So let me just see if I can find some chili peppers to show you guys, because they are pretty cool. So here are some chili peppers for you guys to check out. So you can create 2 different types of gangs. You can create a gang that is a brotherhood gang comprised of all the same chili peppers, or you can create a mixed gang, which would have to have all completely different chili peppers. To make a gang, you have to place down 3 or more cards at once to start a gang. And then there are action cards that you can play against other players called hot cards. And hot cards you can play, that's not a hot card. These 2 are hot cards. There's a couple in the game. So hot cards you can play against other players for each complete gang you have in your area, which would be 3 or more cards, you can play 1 hot card against another gang. So if you had 2 complete gangs, you could play 2 hot cards. You can take as many actions on your turn as you're able to, by the way. So yeah, and the only way to defend against a hot card is with a forget about it card, which is this card. And then there are some other green cards which allow you to like draw cards or draw extra cards or, you know, do other things. Yeah, it's a really fun game. I played an 8-player game of it, and after 1 game I decided that this will be my new go-to set collection filler game that we play like either at the beginning of a game night or at the end of a game night. So yeah, this is definitely going to be that game for me from now on. I prefer it to Sushi Go. I think it's a lot more fun. You know, Sushi Go is also great, but I really just enjoyed this one so much more. We just had so much fun playing this when we played it. So yeah, I'm actually doing a giveaway of this, and today, Saturday, is the last day to enter. If you want to if you want to win a Hot as Hell pledge, I think it was called, or Hell on Earth pledge of this game, then do be sure to enter. You would need to go to my Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter account to enter. So yeah, so that is Chili Mafia, and I really enjoyed it, and I really hope I get to keep this prototype because it was a lot of fun. Okay, the next game I am going to talk about is Mysterium Park. I am not a huge fan of the original Mysterium. I played it a couple of times. To be honest, I don't remember too much about the original Mysterium now, so it's not like I can really compare and contrast for you guys at this point in time, because it's been over a year since I've played the original Mysterium, but I've played this 2 times in recent weeks. I really like this game. I really like the artwork. I do recommend that when you play this game, you would want to play with people who maybe have played similar games before. So the first time I played with, you know, other board gamers, and they really understood the gist of the game and understood how it worked. And then the second time I played with my 2 sisters and brother-in-law who are not board gamers, and I tried explaining to them that the clues that I, as a ghost, am giving to you for you to figure out who the murderer is and where it happened can be really small. Like, it can be something as small as the same color or the same shape as, you know, something else that I'm trying to indicate to you. I don't think that they were really getting it. I tried to explain it to them multiple times, and I also tried to explain to them that when I hand you clue cards, those are for you specifically, related to one thing that is out there, but they would just kind of pull all their clue cards together and would try to pick stuff based on just pulling them all out. It was just kind of a disaster playing with my sisters and brother-in-law. I had to really explain the rules over and over before they really got it. But yeah, but it's a fun game. I like it. I think, you know, I enjoy games like this and like Dixit, which, you know, are light games but allow you to appreciate some really beautiful artwork as you're playing them. You know, not like super strategic or anything, just a light game that can be fun and, you know, just has really, really pretty artwork. So yeah, so you know, this can be a nice party game, I think, in a way. So yeah, so that is Mysterium Park, and again, unfortunately, I don't remember why I like it better than the original Mysterium. I think it's just a bit more streamlined. So the next game I want to talk about, I think, is my favorite area control game, Rumble Nation. So I was trying to remember what other area control games I've played. I'm sure I've played a bunch, and I was trying to remember which ones I have in my collection. You know, I could probably take a look around and see what else I have. But I would say that this is probably one of my favorite area control games. It is very clean, simple, but so strategic, and a lot of fun. So you have this board, and on this board there are 11 different locations, I think. Yeah, 11 different locations. And on your turn, you are going to, well, the main action you will be taking is rolling 3 dice. And 2 of those dice, you get 1 reroll per turn. If you want, but you must re-roll all of the dice if you choose to do that. So 2 of the dice, you will add up the numbers, and that will indicate the location you're going to on this board, and the other die will indicate how many of your cubes you get to put down there. So you are placing down your cubes in certain areas to gain control of those areas, and then or instead of doing that, you have the option of playing one of these cards that will be laid out at the beginning of the game that have special powers. These are a once per game use. If someone uses it, it's out of the game. So it's on a first come, first serve basis. So in a 3-player game, if I remember correctly, there were 4 cards out there. And so if you choose to use one, you use it, and then it's out of the game, and then there are 3 cards remaining. So on your turn, you can either place the cubes or use a card for its special ability. So you want to gain a majority of cubes in the various areas, and they, again, are numbered from 2 to 12. And then if you win that area, you start with the lowest number and you go higher. If you win a certain area by having the most cubes on it, you will be placing reinforcement cubes on an adjacent area where you also have cubes present. So in that way, during that phase of the game, majorities can be altered depending on who won a section that was adjacent to that at a lower number. And yeah, it's a super interesting game. The way it plays out in the second phase of the game, when you are determining who won certain areas, that's when you realize you really should have planned more carefully. Like, you know, you may have thought that you had the majority in a certain area, but you may have overlooked that someone has more cubes in a certain area than you, and they're going to get those reinforcements and then win the other area that you thought you were going to win. It's a lot of fun. So I just played this on my Wednesday night game night. We played 2 games of it, and we really enjoyed it. And the 2 people I played with were really eager to find out where they could buy this game. It is a Japanese board game. Oh, sorry, I totally forgot to mention player counts and designers. So this one is designed by Shinichi Yogi. Oh no, that's the artwork. Oh no, that's the designer. And artwork by Toru Kagayama. And this is 2 to 4 players. Yeah, and Chili Mafia was 2 to 8 players. And I don't know who the designers are. Yeah, okay. So that is Rumble Nation. It is a Japanese board game, so if you want it, you'll need to I think try to find it from an overseas website. The next game I want to talk about is Flamecraft, which is coming to Kickstarter soon. I don't know if the designer's name is on here. I don't see it. Okay, oh, there it is. Art by Sandra Tang and design by Manny Vega. So this is coming to Kickstarter next week, I think. It's for 2 to 5 players. It's a dragon placement shared town building game. So this is a prototype version, so please do keep that in mind as I show the components to you. So I'll just show you one of the dragons. But again, prototype version, but even for a prototype version, the components in this game were absolutely stunning, so I can only imagine how great they will be in the actual board game. So yeah, check out this purple dragon. So there are 6 different types of dragons, and for each type of dragon, there's basically a resource associated with that dragon. You are trying to collect various resources in this game, and also, so you're trying to collect resources and, just get points and trying to win this game. So so this board is cloth. It's a cloth board, and you are going to have town cards along this cloth board. So let me just, okay, I can take care of that later. So the town cards will look like this. I will have a 1-minute overview video so you guys will know what that's like. So these are some of the town cards available. So on your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either gather resources. You can go to a certain shop, and then you can gather the resource that's shown in the corner of the shop. If there's any dragons at that shop, you can also get the resources that are shown at the dragons. So different dragons will give you different resources. So if these dragons were here, you would also collect the resources from the dragons. And if there's any enchantment cards tucked into the shop, you will get the resources from the enchantment card as well. So that's what you can do. And then after you collect your resources, you have the option of placing down a dragon. If you have an open slot and a matching icon to place down the dragon, then you would get the rewards shown. Then you can activate the ability of one of the dragons, and different dragons have different special abilities. The 6 types of dragons all have 6 different abilities. And then finally, if the shop has a special ability, you can activate the shop special ability. So in this way, you can really chain actions and just, ramp up what you're getting, the resources and what you're doing, basically. So yeah, there's a lot of chaining of actions, and it gets, the chains become longer and longer as the game goes on, and the shops start to fill up with dragons, and more is available available for you to do. Once a shop fills up with dragons, a new shop becomes available. You start with 6 starter shops, and then other advanced shops start to come out. The other action you can take is to enchant. So as you're collecting resources, there are enchantment cards, and they will give you rewards, and you will tuck them into the shop, and that will increase the shop's resource making ability. I really enjoy this game. I know that they are planning on coming out with additional shops and stuff that will, increase the replayability of this game. I played it twice. Both times I really enjoyed it. Even with the prototype, there were enough shops to keep it a bit different each time. Like in one game, there was a shop that came out that I didn't have in the first game, which was really cool. So yeah, with more and more shops, I do think that it will have more replayability and will be a good game. My only gripe was the cloth board. I just thought it was difficult for the dragons to remain, steady on the cloth board. Maybe that was just due to us not, placing them as well as we would have liked. I don't know. I do wish that there was like an actual physical board, but there are advantages to a cloth board as well. So I don't know. I mean, do you guys prefer cloth boards or, neoprene? They said that the colors weren't as vibrant on a neoprene mat, which I can totally understand. So yeah, I really like this game, and I really like the artwork, and I'm super excited to get a production copy of this game. So yeah, you guys can stay tuned for a video of this game. So those were all the games I played in the past week. I wish I had more to talk about, but I guess it was kind of a slow gaming week. So yeah, so that is it. So I will go on to games that I have backed on Kickstarter. Okay, let's talk about games I am backing on Kickstarter. Firstly, I'm really excited that Top Hop was funded. It became funded this morning, so that will be published. So that was a really great set collection game that I highly recommend. So I did back a couple new games, just a couple. So I'm still pledged for Spires and Hildegard, so I'm still keeping that pledge. The new game I backed, one of the new games, is Road Trippin', the license plate game. So this game, you have license plates, and I guess you're putting down words or letters and numbers on them, and other players have to guess what you wrote down on the license plate, basically. I think everyone has played some version of this game while driving with family or friends somewhere, right? So you look at license plates, you kind of try to come up with, what they could mean, or if you see a vanity license plate, you try to figure out what it means. I myself actually have a vanity license plate, and I've had numerous people come up to me trying to guess what my license plate is. I thought it was pretty obvious, but I've had some really interesting guesses that I was not expecting. So this is a game I definitely think I will enjoy. The artwork on the license plates is really pretty. I really like the artwork on the license plates. It's just going to be a fun party game, I think. I'm not a huge fan of word games. Typically, I only like them as kind of like light filler games. So this, I think I will enjoy it. And so I'm excited to get this game. I think it'll be a nice filler game, a quick filler game. So that is Road Trippin', the license plate game. And I will hopefully remember to include links to Kickstarters this time, because I know I didn't do that last time. There's 9 days left in this campaign. So it says that it can be played competitively or cooperatively with as few as 2 players, or as many as you can gather. I'm not sure how you, I guess I would need to know how you can play with as many as you can gather, because I think that it only comes with like 8 license plates. I can't remember exactly. So that is that game. The next game I decided to back is Oros. So it says, be an all-powerful demigod in an ever-shifting world. The reason I decided to back this was because of Rado's quote at the very top. It says, there are so many fresh, new, cool, mind-expanding ideas here that all work together so well. I am so impressed by Oros. I feel like Rado and I have similar taste in games. Like when I look at the games that he covers, he's inspired me to back so many different games. I look at the games that he covers, I look at the games that appear behind him. We have very similar taste in games. So if Rado says he enjoyed a game, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it too. So that's why I backed Oros. I hope it is as fresh and mind expanding and new as he says it is, because there's always, there's so many tile laying games that I have at this point. I think it's a tile laying game. So it's for 1 to 4 players. And it looks really cool. So that is the other game I've decided to back. And then I am following along for Chili Mafia. And that's it. So those are the only games I'm currently backing. I'm still trying to make up my mind about Architects of the West Kingdom, but I will kind of get into that in the question section about why I haven't maybe backed it yet. So those are all the Kickstarters that I'm backing right now. Please let me know what you're backing. Maybe I've missed something cool again. So that's it. So let's go on to questions. So the first question is, I will start with board gaming related questions and then do some more non-board gaming related questions. So they're all kind of related to the industry or board gaming in one way or another this time. So the first question is, FOMO is a dangerous adversary. Do you feel it gets the better of you sometimes? It gets the better of me all the time. If you could see, maybe I should do an apartment tour at one point, because my apartment just looks ridiculous now. Like, in addition to these 3 bookcases filled with games behind me, I have a 3x3 Kallax unit in front of me that is filled with games stacked on top. I have a bookcase on the side that has games on it. I have stacks and stacks of board games in my living room. So I have way too many board games, and FOMO is definitely a reason for that. So, I sometimes feel like I'm also a completionist. So even if I've played a game just once, or even haven't played it at all, and something new for that game comes out, I feel like I have to have it, and that is a problem. It is now August. I have not even played half of the games I own this year, and in the 7 months that we've had this year so far. Of course, that's also partly due to the pandemic and lockdown and the world just opening up recently. But even if, if I'm being completely honest with myself, even if the world were completely open since January, I still wouldn't have even played half of the games that I own. And that's just kind of ridiculous. So you could have a game sitting on your shelf for over a year that goes untouched, unplayed, and the fact that I still feel like I need to get everything related to that game, that's a problem. So FOMO definitely gets to the better of me. I end up backing games because I feel like everyone is backing it and I need to have it too. I actually did sell off a couple of games that I had backed due to FOMO. I had backed Lisboa de Mercado, I think it was called, or is it Mercado de Lisboa? I think it's Mercado de Lisboa. The Vital Lacerda game, which is supposed to be a little bit lighter. I had backed that due to FOMO, but then I just sold it right away as soon as I got it. I had backed, the completionist in me felt like I needed to have Venice when that game was on Kickstarter, so I had backed that, but I'd never played it. I sold it after receiving it. I even sold Ragusa. So I decided not to back Florence. I am, a completionist, and I fall for FOMO all the time, like way too often, and I wish I could stop doing that. So that's why I actually I'm trying to get better at it. So I haven't backed Architects of the West Kingdom yet, the expansion. I have one of the expansions for it, but I'm like, realistically, how many times am I going to play this game? It's a worker placement game. I would say it's in my top 10 worker placement games. As I mentioned on the Dice Tower when I did top 10 worker placements with Z and Tom and Z. But realistically, there's just so many games for me to play, especially as a content creator. I have a lot of new games I need to play that I need to cover. So I need to be more careful about, preventing FOMO from dictating my purchasing and, backing on Kickstarter. So but it gets to the better of me all the time, but I'm trying really hard to not let it anymore. The next question, wrong one. Wonder if you have ever played Tales of the Arabian Nights, and if so, what you thought of it. I haven't played that game, but I am, intrigued, and I want to check it out and see what it's like, especially as someone with ancestry, from the Arabian Peninsula, and as someone who's Muslim, I'm always kind of curious to see, how that region is represented in the games. So I would be curious to check it out. One of my favorite books is Arabian Nights and Days by Najib Mahfouz, who was an Egyptian author, Nobel Prize winning author, Egyptian. And so he wrote kind of like a modern take on Arabian Nights. So it was called Arabian Nights and Days. And that was one of my favorite books, like when I was like in high school and growing up. So, so yeah, I would definitely be interested in checking out this game. But again, I'm always curious about how the region and people and things will be represented in games. Five Tribes is one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love it. Bruno Cathala is one of my favorite designers. But one thing I was really disappointed by was I feel like that they didn't do their research when coming up with a name for your adversary in the solo mode of the game. So they used a name of a historical figure who was basically akin to Hitler for Muslims. Like, if you think of Hitler, that's, what he was for Muslims in a way. So, and that person's name was used for the solo mode of Arabian Five Tribes. And that really bothered me. So I haven't played the solo mode, but it's still one of my favorite games. But, I do wish that people would do a little bit more research, do their due diligence when they're designing games and make sure that they're not offending anyone. I'm not someone who gets easily offended. I would say, I've seen, the way certain things are represented in certain board games, like genies and stuff like that. Like, people don't know where the term, I guess, genie actually comes from, and how actually Muslims actually truly do believe in genies and jinns, but they're not the way that Western media portrays them. So Muslims actually do believe in a thing called a jinn. We believe it's one of the things that God, like one of the races, I guess you could say, or beings that God created. So we believe that there is humans, there's angels, and there's jinns. So that's where the whole genie thing came from, but it's been turned into something that it's actually not. I'm always curious about how things are represented in games, but I'm not overly offended by certain things, but the name in Five Tribes I was offended by because of who that person was in history and what he did and what that means to Muslims. And they could have picked any other name. so there's that. So I'll check out the Tales of Arabian Nights. I actually know nothing about it. The next question is an important question. It says, are there changes that can be made to make gaming groups, conventions, and so on be more inclusive and welcoming? So that's a great question. I mean, there's so much talk about inclusivity and making groups welcoming and conventions welcoming. So I will start off by saying I want to address conventions separately and then local gaming groups separately. So I will start out by saying that anyone who makes a death threat, of course, should be banned from conventions. No one should ever wish bodily harm on another person for any reason. There's nothing that can, in the gaming world, there's absolutely no reason to wish bodily harm on another person. So if you can figure out who made a death threat on a certain person and you can ban them, then sure, by all means do that. It gets a bit slippery. There's a slippery slope, and the floodgates can be opened when you decide you want to start banning people who are racist or homophobic, or I'm going to throw in Islamophobic, even though I know that a lot of the gaming community that claims to care about other issues doesn't care about that at all. Transphobic, all these other phobias that, people care about. It could be, as an attorney, I can, my lawyer brain kind of comes on and I start thinking about the floodgates and the slippery slope that you will get and the legal ramifications of trying to keep out certain people. So just as an example, let's say, you decide you want to keep out all homophobic people from conventions. How are you going to do that? What level of proof would you need to say that someone is homophobic? it becomes a he said, she said story. And who is the deciding body on deciding who gets to come in and who doesn't? And, do people have a chance to rectify their behavior? Do they have a chance to grow and learn from past behaviors that, maybe they can now acknowledge, we're homophobic or anything like that. As someone who has been labeled a TERF time and time again on Twitter in the gaming community, when I would say I'm not a TERF, I'm someone who, I've been called that because I went to Wizarding World in January. And the funny thing is, the person who I went with, a very well-known board gamer in this community, content creator, was not called a TERF. He's not been called a TERF once, whereas I'm repeatedly called a TERF for having gone to Wizarding World. However, I would argue that I'm not a TERF. I would say I'm an attorney who actually volunteered her time. It was not my job to do this. It was voluntary to help trans people legally change their names. I did a whole training on, how to do that. I've attended many different trainings in my workplace that were voluntary to help people from marginalized groups. But I would say people find it easier to label me a TERF because of the misconceptions they have about Muslims in general, that, all Muslims are homophobic, all Muslims are transphobic, all Muslims are this, because of, just the associations associated with Islam as, the religion of Islam. So how would you prove that I'm a TERF? Whose word would be taken to keep me out? Like, okay, TERF's not welcome at conventions. So they would say I'm a TERF. I would say I'm not a TERF. I would say they're Islamophobic. They would say they're not Islamophobic. So who gets to decide? That's where you would have the floodgates open. That's where you would have a slippery slope. So my thing is, I believe that as long as you haven't wished bodily harm on someone and it can be proven that you did that, then you should be welcome at the convention. And conventions should have policies in place that ensure the safety and comfort of everyone, right? No hate speech, no physical altercations. If you throw a punch at someone, you're out. If you use a derogatory term against someone, you're out, So these are policies you can have in place to ensure that conventions are inclusive and welcoming. If you happen to sit down at a table to play a game with someone and you feel unwelcome, again, slippery slope. Like, what can you do at that point? If a person has not used a derogatory term against you, if they have not actually said something to you, and you feel uncomfortable and you feel that that person is racist or homophobic or what have you, what can be done at that point? Again, that's a slippery slope. So I would say if you yourself have sat down at a table to play games with people that you don't know, firstly, I will say this. When I sit down at a convention to play games with people, which, I've been to 2 conventions, both of them were PAX Unplugged, and I had so much fun. And, I sat down to play games with so many strangers, people I don't know. When I sat down to play games with people, I did not ask them, what do you think of Muslims? What do you think about this? What do you think about black people? I don't ask them these questions. I'm there to play a game. I'm there to have fun. I'm not there to find out what their political affiliation is. I'm not there to find out their views on black people, on Muslim people, on gay people. That's none of my business. I don't care. As long as they're being respectful towards me while we're playing the game, it's all good, and that's fine. Like, I can sit there and have a fun time playing a game with people I don't know, who I know nothing about. And, in their private life, they could be like, Muslims are terrorists. I don't care. Like, I don't know them. I'm just there to play a game and have fun, and I will never see them again. So all these people who say that they don't want to sit at tables with people who hate people like them, who, are all these terrible things, how do you know? Are you going to ask every single person you sit down at a table with? And if someone is in the community that you know to be that way, don't sit down at the table with them. Like attracts like, right? So you are going to attract the kind of people who are similar to you. So if you only want to game with people who you know have the same exact political views as you, then seek those people out. I'm sure that's what these people do anyway. I'm sure all of these people on Twitter who are very loud about keeping out certain people from conventions, they probably only game with themselves anyways, right? They're not going to just sit down at a table with random people they don't know, because clearly they want to know what every single person's political affiliation is. They want to know what every single person's beliefs are about certain marginalized groups. I'm not that way. I've experienced, some I guess, I don't know what the word is, bigotry, discrimination, I don't know, hostility while playing games locally. So there was a time where I went to the local gaming store to play a game, and I'm pretty well known in the community. I run one of the 3 regular board game meetups, and all the employees at the game store know me. So I was there to play a board game with 2 male friends, and it was a big table, and sitting next to us were 2 other males who didn't know who I was, and they were audibly making fun of me the entire time. I would say something, they would mimic what I was saying, they would laugh at what I was saying. They were just very audibly making fun of me. And I would just look at them and just give them dirty looks, like, I don't know these people, I don't care, I'm not going to see them again. But yeah, they were assholes. They were making fun of me for being this woman in a gaming space playing games. As far as I could tell, that was the only reason they were making fun of me. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know that I actually run a board game meetup and that I'm pretty active in the board game community. So, if someone's being an asshole, I'm not going to play a game with them. So if I sit down at a convention and someone turns out to be an asshole, but they're not saying something so openly that, they can be removed from the convention, then I can just get up and move to another table. Or I can call someone over and be like, this person is being disrespectful and I think that they should be moved to another table. Like, I want to play this game, so they should be moved. I mean, you have options, right? You have options to create the kind of environment that you want. So I would say that, when you're in sections such as First Look at PAX Unplugged, where there are a limited number of these new games that you really want to play, and so they are trying to fill up these games with, the maximum player count, so you will end up playing with strangers. Honestly, every time I've been to PAX Unplugged, I've played with a variety of people, all kinds of people. Everyone has been so kind to each other. No one has openly been racist or homophobic or Islamophobic or anything like that. We are there to experience this new game, play this new game that we are all super excited to play. But again, conventions have policies in place to make conventions more inclusive and welcoming. So if you yourself feel that someone has done something to you, report it, right? That's what you can do. You can report it, or if you don't want to report it, just get up and move to another table. The general gaming section, where you can take any game from the library or play any game that you've brought yourself, there are so many tables available. Like, I would say it would be impossible at PAX Unplugged for you to not find a table to sit down at and play a game. And again, like attracts like. If you sit down with people and you don't like them, they're strangers, get up and find someone else. I'm sure you can do that at PAX Unplugged. You have these signs that you can hold up that say seeking gamers or whatever, looking for gamers. And again, it may take a couple of times if you are really against playing with certain types of people, but eventually you will find the kinds of people you want to play with. Personally, I've never had any issues at PAX Unplugged. I'm a woman of color, and I've never felt like I've faced any discrimination or bigotry or anything like that at PAX Unplugged. But yeah, so I think conventions should have policies in place. No hate speech, obviously no physical altercations of any kind, no sexual harassment. If you feel you've been harassed in any way, report it. As far as local gaming groups go, I know not everyone has the initiative to start their own gaming group, because I would say that if there's a gaming group that is filled with the kinds of people you don't want to game with, then, start your own gaming group. That is what I would say. I would say go on Meetup, create a group and write, the guidelines for your group. This group is going to be open. This group is going to be welcoming to people of all kinds. We will not tolerate X, Y, and Z. Create the kind of group that you want to be in. Create the, be the change that you want to see. So that's what I would say, as far as local gaming groups are concerned. I run a local meetup. I've enlisted help in running this meetup with another individual. I would say I am the only woman of color, and I run the meetup. I'm the only woman of color. In fact, thinking about who comes to these meetups, I think I've been the only woman who actually shows up. Once in a while another woman will show up, or girl, but for the most part it's just me with a bunch of guys, and we've had people come from all kinds of diverse backgrounds to this meetup, and we've all gotten along. We've never had an issue where someone has used any kind of language that could be hurtful or in any way. And if such language were used, I am positive that even the person I run the meetup with would agree that we need to have a talk with that person and see whether or not they should be removed from the group, depending on the severity of the incident that happened, because everyone should feel welcome. So create the kind of group that you want. If you are yourself an inclusive and welcoming person, then you can create that kind of environment. Like attracts like. So that's what I would say with regards to that question. So yeah, so just be the change you want to be. You know, again, I'm an attorney, so when I think about conventions, I think about all the floodgates opening and the slippery slopes and who gets to be the judge of everything, who gets to decide who to exclude. So those are very valid questions, because I am an attorney who believes in due process. I am an attorney who believes that everyone should have a right to defend themselves. So yeah, so you know, there are these very real issues that need to be taken into consideration. You know, I would say, I would end this conversation by saying the world is not black and white, and I feel like a lot of people in the gaming community want to make it very black and white. You have to either believe this 100% or you are against us. It's either you're with us or you're against us. There's no room for gray in this world, apparently. And that's not how the real life is. That's not how the real world is. You know, when you live and work in the real world, especially as an attorney, you will come to learn that, you know, you have to make compromises and you have to, you know, create the change you want to see in proper ways. You know, there's certain ways to behave and certain ways not to behave. And so just try to be a good person, try to treat other people the way you want to be treated, and try to not treat people the way you don't want to be treated. You know, people have been saying you should you should treat people the way they want to be treated, which is a bit difficult, because how do you know how everyone wants to be treated, or how do you know that how they don't want to be treated? But you know, I think that there are some basic guidelines that all humans can follow that are very simple to try to live by. You know, don't do harm to anyone. You know, don't use bad language against anyone. If you know you have no, you know, just treat people the way you want to be treated, is how I would say it. So yeah, so I hope that answered that question. Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I know that this episode was a little bit lackluster. I've been, you know, dealing with some stuff on my own in my own personal life, so it's kind of affected my mood a little bit. But I hope that that will go away soon and that I can get back to being as perky and happy as I usually am about board games. So yeah, so until next time, guys, bye.